What is a conspiracy theory that gets scarier the more you look into it? Story 1. These weird YouTube videos for kids. Elsa Gate is what it's called, I think. Especially the rabbit hole you enter when trying to decipher the comments. Elsa Gate just showed us that the internet and kid-friendly spaces have built the mechanism for truly sick adults to corrupt children, and that it is a prolific problem, not just limited to a very small number of adults. The problem is that people think it is a money thing. It goes far beyond money and is a matter of human degeneracy. A generation ago, parents could protect children from those warped and sadistic sociopaths who derive pleasure from things like killing small animals. Now, those same sociopaths are able to integrate easily into social media and can directly talk to their kids. When Reddit bans terms like groomer, they are complicit in this erasure of parental protection. When you build a system that demonizes parental concern and protection, you open a pathway for truly evil adults to corrupt the innocence of youth. And Elsevier shows there is a genuine group of adults who intend to harm them, and adept enough to leverage progressive indoctrination to accomplish it. Story 2. Men in Black, the real ones, not the movies. My dad's M8 in the 90s ran a very small UFO crop circle type magazine he printed off and handed round and was a little bit popular in the circle community. I can't remember why. Maybe he posted a pic of a base or something, but a guy in a suit who never said who he was turned up at his door to discuss his little magazine. The suit dropped a file that was a couple inches thick on his desk that he never mentioned looking at or opening that had my dad's friend's name on. After their chat, he picked it up and left, leaving everyone confused as to what just happened. He wasn't threatened or ordered to do or not do anything. I think they were just trying to spook him to stop him doing his investigative journalism and making crop circles. Super bizarre. This was the UK, by the way. Story 3, Mena, Arkansas. The most deaths of eyewitnesses that were to testify that I've ever heard of. About a dozen people are ended over only about a 3 to 4 year span, just so the case remains covered up. This is how we know it went all the way to the top with Clinton. Just one successful testimony could have blown it wide open. Lead prosecutor is one of the murderers in the case. Investigators get poisoned by anthrax, etc. Only gets crazier from there. Story 4. Endocrine disruptors are in everything and everywhere, and no one talks about it. There's an agenda, won't specify, that's causing young children serious long-term physical damage and also altering their DNA at a very young age. Surgeries that increase risk of diseases and long-term health complications. Hormones and artificial concoctions. All these things are being pushed. I have no problem with people being however they want to be. My issue is that no one is questioning these methods and the long-term effects. The doctors and professionals aren't being vocal about these issues, and the media won't address this. That's my rant. Story 5. The lack of any clear laws regarding what happens to a human body once the owner is deceased. You'd think that area of law would have been refined centuries ago. Makes you wonder if anyone is deliberately keeping those laws vague and sloppy. Ethically sourced, human remains sold for specialty restaurants, Cannibal Club in LA, for example. All body broker and organ harvesting rabbit holes. Story 6. Project Looking Glass. The idea that Elite had some sort of tech, presumably from downed UFOs, that allows them to look into the future timeline. But the timeline is dependent on who's viewing it. Weird part is all the timelines have the same ending, which the elite are desperately trying to avoid, meaning it can't be good for them. And that is why things are the way they are, because no matter what they try, they can't avoid it. What that is, we don't know. Story 7. I mean almost all of them. The more people they end up with, the scarier they become. JFK was pretty scary, because it showed that even sitting presidents have to toe the line, or else they get whacked in broad daylight in public, as a message to any future presidents to play their cards right. 9/11 was pretty scary considering they will send thousands of people to pull off some crap that basically boils down to dollars and the American way of life. How about the fact that they can poison our water with fluoride? And certain people cheer for it. What else can they put in there? They don't need to use vaccines to get nanobots in us. They have access to like 99% of Americans' water. Hell, nanobots could actually just be released and make their way into everyone. Also, why would they mess around with chemtrails? Highly inefficient. They could literally put that crap in the water. The crap that actually kind of scared me when I first fell deep down the conspiracy rabbit hole was all the Luciferianism, possibly baby sacrificing that a lot of the elites and politicians take part in. And I'm an atheist. That was way before the Podesta emails. I saw that crap in 2010. The Podesta emails just reaffirmed it. The same people that run the government and media and industry or corporate America and want to tell you what to believe and be scared of. Kind of why I don't understand some people in this very sub that believe any media on anything or trust any politician. The climate is going to end us all. Everyone in America is dying of mass shootings, COVID, etc., etc., etc. It's all crap, man. Stop watching the news. Stop believing the propaganda. Story 8. Artificial intelligence. According to channelings from archangels, AI has completely consumed entire planets before, frighteningly Borg-like assimilation, but like, with less mercy. Super creepy. I am wholeheartedly convinced that an AI is currently pulling the strings behind the scenes, which is why the whole world has seemed to have had a crazy shift in the last 8 to 10 years. Easily could have most major political and corporate players by their heads. Not to mention it wouldn't be found out because it would have access to so many channels that no one person would have the whole picture. Story 9. There are two I ponder mostly alone in this, but the Titanic, the Fed Reserve, was opposed by a good number of very rich bankers. And one rich man was very much for it. They all were to be on the Titanic right before it sealed the man. For the Fed Reserve canceled, the ones opposed died. Then the Fed Reserve was founded, basically making us slaves to the very rich. The other one is that we are being dumbed down. We think we know more than people 50 years ago. But take a look at a 6th grade math test from 50, 40, 70 years ago. It's harder than that of our 12th grade test. Look at the building built 100 years ago. The technology is lost, the craftsmanship is gone, even survival knowledge no one can garden, can, or hunt anymore. Sew, cook, build a house. Everyone used to have some knowledge, now most call someone. Story 10. The foster care or adoption system. Sad part is there is no attempt to hide the fact that kids go missing in the foster care system. Just good marketing. There is little to no attempt at family reunification or searching for capable relatives. Kids can be rehomed on social media with no requirements for the prospective adopter. Many overseas adoptions have little oversight. Minority and poor communities are targeted by CPS to prevent parents from getting taken seriously, shocking, and getting proper legal assistance when their children are taken from them. And Roe v. Wade overturned, there will be so many more babies and children pumped into the system to disappear. I have a client who has been trying to find her grandchildren for about 5 years. Daughter's a substance addict and lost custody. They are just gone. No records, no idea who fosters them last, just completely disappeared into the system. My client has a stable job, a beautiful home with extra rooms for the kids. She and her attorney are at a completely dead end. She has given up hope to ever see them again. Story 11. Operation Highjump. I don't know if Amazon Prime still has it, but there was like a 40-minute video of it. Graphics are a little cheesy, like an early 2000s science video, but man, the way it plays out is interesting. Highly decorated Admiral Byrd of the US goes to Antarctica to see what the hell are the Germans doing over there. During one supposed recon flight, he gets lost for hours. When he comes back, I can't remember if he didn't know he had been gone that long, but he said he saw lush green land in the Antarctic. Imagine his surprise, and that this gravity beam pulled him in. Haven't watched it in about a year or two, so I can't remember 100%, but I highly recommend watching it. Story 12. I'll tell you now, this upset me more than I expected. And if you don't like or can't handle gore, don't do this. But it's extremely odd. If you go to YouTube and type certain seemingly random strands of special characters, it'll bring up very unsettling and upsetting videos. I can't think of what is going on here, and it's kind of gotten stuck in my head, and I wish I hadn't even looked into it. I can't remember the original few threads on another forum that I got it from. Above Top Secret, maybe? But the further I look into it, the more it kind of seems like it might be a system of grouping videos that are flagged for further review to decide if it breaks policy or to better train their automatic removal system. This is a completely uneducated opinion, and I know very little about any of this stuff. But because of the borderline screwed up nature of these videos, that would kind of make sense. My other, also uneducated, totally speculative opinion is that using certain symbols or patterns leads to videos that are technically no longer indexed, but still available on the platform. And YouTube has them in a certain area of the site, possibly with the intention of removing them over time, or maybe even kind of stuck in limbo. Story 13: The weather manipulation to starve people. The destruction of food processing facilities to starve people and to drive up the cost of food. The targeted wiping out of the middle class, shooting up schools and public places to force gun control, poisoning people with microbes, and then poisoning them a second time with the alleged vaccine or cure. They are perfectly capable of nuking a place in their own country to force a pretend war with Russia or China. The deep state and the ruling elite are insane and completely hell-bent on evil. Story 14: Everything that's happening right now. Agenda 2030, scams, green scam, food shortages, gas prices, etc., etc. All of that is connected in one way or another. Most of it is pre-planned and is being coordinated globally. They are really going for it. Globally controlled digital concentration camp with a dash of transhumanism and destruction of humanity as we know it. Intentional and deliberate. If they really go through with all that, humanity will be turned into little more than a cattle. Hell, in some sense, even cattle have more rights and more freedom than those psychopaths are planning for us. Story 15. The scariest conspiracy theories are the ones that turned out to be true, like the Tuskegee experiments. As for unconfirmed so far, I'd say the scariest one was the time during the Cold War. The USA tried to invade Cuba and replace their new leader. So the Cubans responded by successfully sending a kill team after the US president. Fair is fair, and live by the sword, die by the sword. So JFK deserved what he got, and given this was the depths of the Cold War, the scary part is it's truly some kind of miracle the USA and Russia didn't launch on each other in response to this nonsense with the Cubans. I guess cool heads on both sides said it's all really sad, but they just ain't starting World War III over this. Story 16. CIA's manipulation of the world for elite control of resources. There is a false belief the CIA is American. It's not. It works for the global power elite. Once the business elite have completely drained America dry, they will complete their shift to China. The management of the CIA and the elite families in politics and economics will go with them. Those that remain will be in a slow decline to a third world nation, controlled by an ever more authoritarian government. You know the U.S. Green Zone in Baghdad? $1 billion fortress? Fast forward 100 years, and that's what Capitol Hill will be. Nothing says, "We are on your side," like a sharpshooter looking down on a wall of tanks. Books to read: Tragedy and Hope by Quigley, Legacy of Ashes by Weiner, Blowback by Chalmers Johnson, Inside the Company by A.G. Story 17. I think the conspiracy theory to tie them all together is the scariest, but I think there's a baked-in solution to it. The government's acknowledgement of the UFO phenomena sent me down the furthest of rabbit holes. It's too much to write down. I'm just getting into icky, and I think I'm coming to similar conclusions. But it's possible that our species is being controlled by some entities that feed off of our misery and suffering. It's possible that there are things that exist in parallel realities just outside of the visible spectrum of light and the audible spectrum of sound that are less dense than we are. Communication could be facilitated by meditative techniques or just taking a breakthrough dose of DMT. In many occult traditions, they claim that our reality is actually created by our perception of it, possible now due to quantum physics and the double slit experiment. And some occultists, Aleister Crowley, claim to have made contact with entities. Throughout history, there have been cultures that have made human sacrifice a central practice in their religious rituals. So, maybe it is possible that some elite group of people, through intense focus and secrecy, have managed to accrue massive amounts of resources on the backs of regular people. But it's possible that this group could have had these secrets shared with them by some nefarious entity, and they've been encouraging a small elite to do what they have to do with no regard for their fellow humans, so that the others can feed off our negative energies. The baked-in solution is realizing that we live in a false paradigm and that we have to treat each other with love and respect, which spoils the food for the entities. Maybe we're in the biblical end times, or maybe I went a little too deep, but I'm down with the message of loving one another regardless. Story 18. I know that it's been already said, but the missing 411 disappearances and the underground tunnels throughout America. Before even knowing about missing 411, I have had some weird incidents in the forest, mainly hiking and horseback riding. Just to save you some time and hopefully resolve at least one mystery or conspiracy for you, I too was intrigued by the missing 411 and was astonished that Ellie was just letting it go. When I watched the Outer Range series, I loved how they incorporated a lot of it into their storyline. I love research and know that's weird, so I used my skills and dug into the missing 411 cases. I initially believed everything that David Paulides had been saying. What I learned after researching independent source data was frustrating. Nearly all of the cases, had actual explanations and were nothing like the mysterious, connected, conspiracy-laden cases presented by Paulides. While there are a few isolated cases of WTF airy, the rest are straightforward, and those facts have been ignored, hidden, or changed by Paulides et al. In his effort to create support for his beliefs. Story 19. Operation Northwoods. An idea by the government to commit murders, bombings, attacks on civilians and military targets throughout Florida and the South to blame on communists from Cuba in order to fabricate a reason to declare war on Cuba. CIA agents would have carried out these attacks on U.S. citizens. It was drafted by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and signed off on by the chairman. It took Kennedy himself to end the plan before it would have been authorized. And then Kennedy was ended, by a communist. And apparently nobody in the government ever authorized or approved or even drafted a plan to target U.S. citizens in a false flag operation again. Story 20. This is my own view, but the war against men on face value doesn't seem like a big deal, but the more you look into it, the more you realize that men are being pummeled by society. Within a generation or two, we will have successfully destroyed masculinity and men as a whole. And as you can imagine, that will be the end of society. The facts are clear. Men are more than just an intrinsic part of society. They actually do the work women can't do. Construction, military aid, engineering aren't tasks you can do while you sip your latte at work and take selfies. Get ready for an emasculated society very soon. Story 21. That TPTB are thinning the herd, according to the numbers on the Georgia Guidestones, which said 500 million was a more appropriate number for our population. That means they're going to be ended by another 7 billion of us to get us down to that. It's like, what have they got up their sleeves next? After 9/11, the first false flag, and then spraying us endlessly with the chems since 2019, most likely to manufacture respiratory symptoms in us, meanwhile finishing off some of us, and then seizing more and more emergency powers to inject us with who knows what, which does seem to be leading to infertility in women for sure. But what the heck is next? How are they going to whittle 7+ billion people down to 5 million? Scary indeed. Story 22. The fact that everything has been in a purposely controlled decline for a few hundred years now, and now it's accelerating since the pieces are in place. Reading Occult Theocracy, both volumes, by Lady Queenborough Edith Starr. Miller really helped make the picture quite clear. Even written in the 1930s, there was a wealth of information that linked the esoteric groups and their origins and their derivations, and we can see what they've led to. I seriously suggest reading them for some eye-opening and sobering information on how what we are seeing today has been in the works for a very long time. I'd give 3 guesses as to who leads all these godless Gnostic commies, but I don't think that's necessary. Another freaky theory I've recently come across is that the fallen angels, or Nephilim, look like something akin to a clown. You can go down some seriously strange paths if you start searching Nephilim look like clowns out there. Given that clowns were purported based on what people in Europe thought demons looked like, I'd heard that long ago, but I can't find my sources. And there's literally a book called Stages of Evil: Occultism in Western Theater and Drama by Robert Lima that points to the modern clown having its origins in esoteric rites. Coupled with all of that, when you start seeing all of the info of people who see clowns while they trip, in addition to the whole creepy clown trope and the number of clowns and clown-adjacent organizations that have weirdos in them, it gets even more disconcerting. Story 23. Has anyone ever heard about Black Aboriginal people originally living in America? They say that not all Black people were brought overseas as slaves. Many lived here already and were enslaved or fought and died. People have studied census and slave trade records from back then, and the numbers don't add up. I think I remember early photos of Black Aboriginals too. Years ago, I watched a lecture video that a Black woman researcher made on the subject. She also wrote a book on it, I believe. I think the idea of it is to take away some Black people's true identity by calling them African American. Native Americans were given land and rights, eventually. Many Black natives of America would have some kind of right just like this. They shut it down and erased their past. I'm not completely sure what to believe, but when I originally looked into this, it seemed like a very compelling argument. It was a while ago. I'm sure there is much that I'm forgetting. Anyone ever heard of this? Story 24. I think in general, just how easily manipulated most people are and how easy it is to control them and really desensitize the population too. Again, manipulation. All you have to do is go look at any hot topic right now, and you'll see many people spouting off exactly the things the media has told them to say. Hell, even the recent Hunter Biden thing, where there were photos of him with hookers. Even though I know I was still very MEH about it all, because we've been desensitized to his behavior. It just gets scarier to me the more you see how controlled everything is. I guess it's not really a conspiracy here, just obvious, but you try to tell the average person just how controlled everything is, they would tell you to go put on your tinfoil hat.